Good afternoon, fire chiefs, chief officers, firefighters all across America, North America, and sometimes in the world. We have had a couple people attend our webinars from other countries. I'm John Buckman. I'm the coordinator for the VC Volunteer and Combination Officer Section Education, and I will be your facilitator for the presentation today with Jeff Cash. So we are using our audio is being broadcast over voice over IP technology. If you have problems with the technology, there's an email address there, webinars at ifc.org or via the chat function, and we will try to help you as best we can. We understand technology sometimes fails us, but most of the time our technology is working pretty well for us. So there are some handouts. Jeff was very generous to provide us with copies of his PowerPoint. So it'll be in a PDF format, so you can look at some of his information that maybe you don't get notes on during the presentation. We will take questions and answers, but they will be at the end of the presentation. Unless somebody has a question that really that I see that says, "Oh my gosh, I need to stop Jeff and get this one on the table." But we will take questions in, and we want your questions. We want for you to discuss and maybe even debate some of the ideas that all of our presenters have. So keep that in mind. That will be coming up at the end. What is the Volunteer and Combination Officer Section doing? We, just like Jeff is on the National Volunteer Fire Council Board, Volunteer and Combination Officer Section are busy doing things. We hope we're doing the right things for you, our members, as well as for the fire service. There's a couple things there. Our big event is Symposium in the Sun in 2023. If you've not attended that, that is in November in Clearwater Beach. So we encourage you to look for that. We have tried this year to increase our communications. These webinars are one example of how we've done that, in that we are doing more webinars, trying to provide you with a more comprehensive and diverse education program. And we've had good attendance. We've had good response from you, our fire service brothers and sisters. We look at ribbon reports. That's one of the VCOS has been doing ribbon reports since we started out with blue. I think now we're going to gold. We're getting ready to do a data report. Will be out by August on how small volunteer fire departments can collect data, how they can interpret data, and how they can use data to prove their point. So we're pretty busy doing kind of things. There are many things coming up. We have various webinars. The next webinar we have is in about 2 weeks on group purchasing. If you've not explored group purchasing, I encourage you to do that. You don't have to be a big fire department to get the benefits of group purchasing. If you buy into the IFC group purchasing program, and I'm pretty sure the NVFC has one as well. I know that's where I got the idea to do a presentation. And but it's well worth your time. You might be surprised at how you can make money, and you buy it locally. You don't have to buy it from a national. You may buy it from a national chain, but you're going to go into your local store. So we encourage you to come attend the group purchasing and look at how you can save your department some money. Today's presentation is about leadership and life lessons. We have Jeff Cash, who retired as fire chief in Cherryville Fire Department. Jeff is a longtime friend, longtime acquaintance, but he is passionate about training. He is passionate about sharing his information and delivering a product that will help you become a better firefighter, officer, and maybe even fire chief. So with that, Jeff, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chief Buckman. It's a pleasure to be involved, and I do represent both organizations. I've been a longtime member of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, as well as the VCOS section. And for the past 26 years, I've been on the NVFC, the National Volunteer Fire Council, and I'm the organization's secretary and treasurer. But over the years, I've developed a lot of our training, and we're very proud of some of our workshops, just like you are. And we consider the partnership with VCOS a grand idea, a great way for both organizations to deliver to the fire service of the United States. So we'll get started. My presentation is a little bit different today than actual hazmat or throwing ladders or anything like that. It's designed toward entry-level officers, but it's also good for the chief officer. And it's a little bit about leadership and how it combines with some of the life lessons. So we'll get started. And John said we were old friends. I've dug this slide out. This is a slide from Clearwater, Tampa area back about 16 years ago. The VCOS wanted to provide an honor to John, and what they did, they developed the John Buckman Leadership Award with a criteria, and lo and behold, I was the first recipient. It's the first time I actually met John, and it was an honor to receive that award, especially that it was named for Chief John Buckman, longtime friend. So we'll talk about leadership defined. And I've looked at a lot of leaderships, and I'm a student of leadership, but here's a good definition. Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act toward achieving a common goal or an objective. And when I thought of someone that there's many I could have put down, but I put down Winston Churchill. I did a paper on Winston Churchill in high school, and just his leadership amazed me then, and it still does today for what all he did in a lot of crisis times. So that's who I selected. So I want you to get involved now as a student. Leadership example. Question for you. Who in your life is a great example of an exemplary leader? And you can put that in the chat box or wait to the end as you think, who is a great leader that you've served under? And it don't have to be somebody you've served under, somebody you've observed, somebody you've read about or reported on like I did in high school. And the second question is, who in your life has been not so good of an example and why? And I chose Abraham Lincoln as an unbelievable leader because of the crisis he dealt with when the United States was torn apart. Just amazing leadership. And I had a previous officer who, if I ever told myself, if I ever get the opportunity to do so, I will not operate like he does. So even though sometimes it wasn't the best experience, I learned some valuable leadership lessons from somebody that didn't do it the exact right way. Here's some critical leadership areas. I'm going to put my glasses on because this print's kind of small. Critical areas that you'll be focusing on, and we'll intermingle them. The firehouse experience. And the firehouse experience, it's not like a business organization, a company, not like City Hall. It's not like your church or anything else. The firehouse is a unique place. For those of us that are firefighters, love the fire station, love going to the firehouse. And it's a special group of people there. The camaraderie's phenomenal. But sometimes issues come up that the leader has to step in and make some clarifications. Education. When we first got started years back, and I first started in the late 70s, you did not have to have a formal education to get started. Well, nowadays, you see that it is. To progress up the ladder, to move into a captain's level, a battalion chiefs, or a fire chief, you need that education. That formal secondary education will help you be a good problem solver and a critical thinker. And I think that's what education does. It teaches you a multitude of things, but it exceptionally teaches you how to be a great thinker and a great individual who can figure out situations that you might not have had the toolbox when you've not had the education. Strategy and tactics, we know how important that is. It takes a big leader to do the strategy and tactics, whether it's a lieutenant level or the chief level. And if you don't have that education and experience, I encourage you to get it. There's several places. I'll mention we have one. The VCOS has training in strategy and tactics. The International Association of Fire Chiefs. Your state organization probably has those courses available in the National Fire Academy. So there's plenty of places you can get that training. ICS, experience and training. What I would do when we promoted a new officer, we're close to Charlotte, the Charlotte Fire Department. So I'd ask, at that time, Chief Fincher, could I let my officer ride with one of his bat chiefs so they could gain some valuable experience, because Charlotte has a tremendous amount of more calls than we did. So that was a good tool for us. One that I was not exposed to early in my career, but had to get some education and training on, is the financial and budgetary and training side of all of that. An officer is going to do more and more paperwork. As you move up the ladder, it is quite clear you will be responsible for more paperwork and more decisions that require more of you. And finance and budgetary are critical. Human relations. This is one that we did not get exposed to a lot in the old days, but is important now. Most of my time is spent dealing with people when I was the fire chief, people issues. So it's important, if you don't have that experience or that training, there's places you can get it. I would always check with my local city or county human resources person, individual, and they can take some time and share with you some of the ins and outs, especially the things that affect decisions that you could make that would have legal ramifications. Diversity understanding and training for that. There's all kind of courses out there from the same organizations that I mentioned. But diversity, we've learned it's so critical. When I first started, it was a organization of 100 individuals, 3 fire stations, all white men, and that's changed. We have learned that through experiences of other people of nationality and gender, that we are a much better organization and much better at thinking outside the box when we have diversity. That includes the young folks and women in the fire service. They are doing an outstanding job, and we need to take their opinions, implement them, give them the ball to run. These people are fantastic, and we need to utilize them. Mission statement, vision, and goals. It's something you're going to be asked to do. If you've not ever had the opportunity to write and develop those, there's training courses out there. You'll probably have somebody in your organization, especially if you're a volunteer department, that their company where they do their career may have, he or she may have that skill set to help you develop your department's mission statement, the vision and the goals and the objectives. So all that is important to leadership. Here is when I start. It's kind of a transition slide to get into personal effect. Back years ago, I dressed up for Halloween at City Hall as a nerd, but it has come to be reality for me that I've actually been a nerd my entire life. So it's okay to be a nerd, I've learned. So here's the things we're really going to talk about as we get into the life topics and how they intertwine with leadership. As we've learned, Chief Buckman has been in the fire service a long time. I have been in the fire service a long time. Things I may share with you may not be effective today. They'll be correct and right, but different situations require different timing and different techniques, especially with different individuals. So you can take these for tools for your toolbox, but I think you'll find them helpful. First thing we're going to talk about is the truths about people. We'll talk about the first things, the small things, ethics, which are so very important, taking care of you, customer service, attitude, teamwork, and never give up. So I'm a big NASCAR fan. I actually work for the Charlotte Motor Speedway some, and there's the flagman with the green flag. So we're ready to get into these topics. Truths about people. So this is kind of a little test. Look at the first bullet. People would rather make it better than make it worse. I'm sure most people will answer that question with a yes. Sometimes, however, you will have those people within your organization or externally that will not want to make it better, that will cause you grief. Let me tell you a quick story. My uncles, great uncles and uncles, raised tomatoes here in North Carolina. And I'm not talking about small farms. I'm talking about 50, 60, 70 acres of tomatoes. And they would ship them to a local grocery store here. And I learned a valuable lesson working for them. And one of the first things we had to do once they were picked, we had to send them through the grading house. And the grading house was set up to where it measured tomatoes, looked for any blemishes, and looked for any negative things about the tomato before it was shipped to the grocery store. So guess what we did with the tomatoes that didn't make the inspection house? They got thrown out or put in a box to be thrown out and used as seed or even just discarded. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with your folks. People would rather make it better. Some, though, will give you a problem. And what I've learned, and I'm sure John has learned, is that if you leave that rotten tomato in the good box of tomatoes, that tomato will eventually ruin the whole box. So it's best, and it's painful and difficult, but sometimes once you've trained, encouraged, mentor, and things still don't work, before it disrupts the entire organization, it's time to get rid of that tomato. The next bullet, people want to feel that they make a difference, that they matter, and that they're contributing something bigger than themselves. I think that describes most firefighters across our country and across the world. People want to feel appreciated and valued. And when I first got promoted to a captain's position, I remember that an old firefighter told me that. He said, Cash, if you ever get a chance to lead people, never forget that they just want to be appreciated and feel that they're valued, and they want to hear that from their boss. So I've took that to heart and really tried to practice that throughout the years. Everything from a Christmas card to a birthday card, those personal things that make the employees and staff feel better. Continuing with truth about people, I'm sure you'll agree with this one. What is sown is what you will ultimately reap within your organization and your relationships. That is a true fact. And you see there that statue, if you've ever been to the National Fire Academy, along the Emmitsburg Road, there's that statue, and the sculptor decided to make that statue very unique. It's the Excelsior Monument, and it's the Fighting 73rd, which is a coincidence, which is my station number, and it depicts the two New York City firefighters, because this particular group was made up pretty much of New York City firefighters during the Civil War. And he has got the firefighter in his coat and helmet, and the guy's a soldier with his gun. And you can't see it, but when you go, but they're holding hands. And that's to demonstrate the camaraderie and the faith they have in each other to do the job and to take care of each other. I think it's an awesome monument. The next bullet, we want to trust and believe in others, and we want them to trust and believe in us. Enough said about that one. And the last one, and I put it in red, people come first. When you do get that promotion, or even at church or at the Little League ball field, at home, remember that other people need to come first. You need to be the secondary servant and allow them to step up and to do the job and spread their wings and be their backup and their mentor. So people come first. Don't ever forget that as you become an officer, or if you are an officer. First things first. This is a collage of pictures of my family. And on the left, you'll see some bullets that I've learned over the years. The most important thing in your life are listed there, and in that order: God, family, friends, firehouse, and hobbies. Look where the firehouse shakes out. A little further down than you might have thought. In my life, when I've got this out of order, there's been problems, even chaos. So it's so important that you keep that order. And you see from the pictures, my wife and I and our family are members of the First Baptist Church here in Cherryville. We were both involved, and I've served about every position. There's my family. The one in the gray dress is actually the chief. And then there's my two sons and our daughter-in-laws. And the daughter-in-laws are awesome. They do cramp my style a little bit because we go on vacation together. I now have to wear pants instead of run around in boxer shorts. So the next line is my youngest son. He's a firefighter, a career battalion chief with the City of Shelby Fire Department, and he's a volunteer at our place, and he's the assistant chief over volunteers. And then there's his older brother, who's a banker, and he and I love to fish. We try to spend a lot of time on the lake, and I do reenactments. I'm a history buff, Civil War and Revolutionary War, and I'm the big NASCAR fan. I also love the Braves, and we plan trips each year to go see the Braves. But the point of the slide is the first things need to be first. That order is so critical to your success, not only in life, but as a firefighter. and an officer especially. The small things. When I first started and got a career position, I went to Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is about 60 miles southeast of my hometown. This was a little bit larger town. Like I said, the department had 3 stations and about 100 firefighters. That included all the brass and communications. So it's a pretty big department from what I was accustomed to. At home, we had anywhere from 30 to 45. We have 44 now. But I got an opportunity to go to work there. I met Chief Ed Comer, and he took a liking to me and told me to come back, set me up with all the tests, the polygraph test, the written test, and the physical agility test. So I passed all that, and lo and behold, I was a rookie at the Rock Hill Fire Department, along with 3 other guys. So they didn't put us on shift immediately. They did an internal rookie school for the 3 of us, and different companies, different trucks, different stations had different subjects. And we learned a great deal. Right when we thought we was going to get assigned to an engine in a station, the chief called us to his office downtown and asked us, would we be willing to go to Charlotte's Fire Academy and then just talk about the differences between the two. We'd also taken some courses at the South Carolina Fire Academy. So we went through Charlotte's Academy, and it was great. And we come back and wrote a paper, and for several years they continued to do that. But one of the things that we learned is we got assigned right after the rookie school at Charlotte, after we turned in our paper, and I got assigned Engine 1 downtown, what was the busiest truck in the city. And we protected an area that was a lot of Mill Village homes and several industrial and textile operations. So we ran a lot of calls. So I got pretty big-headed, if you know what that means. It's a term we use down south, that your ego is saying and doing stuff that your rear end can't cash. So I got to be pretty cocky about being a firefighter. As a matter of fact, I told people if hell broke out right here, right now, I'd descend the steps and put it out. So that's how much of an ego I had developed going through these rookie schools and being very, very proficient at what they taught us. And also, I would tell people that my picture, if you opened a dictionary beside firefighter, you'd find my picture. So you see where I'm going with this. When we got assigned to a station, 2 of us were together of our rookie class. The other one went to another station, but the other gentleman was assigned to an engine, and he sometimes rode the ladder because that's what was out of the main station. Little did we know, once we got assigned, that this would be my office. You see what that is. Headquarters was a pretty big station and had all the brass, as I mentioned, logistics, secretaries, fire marshal's office, as well as the firefighters who stayed there. So it was a pretty busy, big fire station. So my captain told me to go clean the bathrooms. I said, Cap, I didn't sign up to clean bathrooms. I'm a firefighter. He said, go clean the bathrooms. So the other gentleman had to do the laundry and fill up the drink box. So the rookies had assignments, and he was also, my fellow rookie was the store boy, if you know what that is. Anytime they needed something from the store, he had to put on his formal uniform, go out to the store. So that's what that consisted of. Things have changed. But I get the equipment and I go into the bathroom area. There's 2 of these, and I do a cleanup of these bathrooms. I think I do a great job. And even back at home when I was young, I helped out on the farm, and I cut grass and washed cars. My sister was the internal operations of the house, so she did the bathrooms. But I was not signing up and there to clean toilets, so I reluctantly cleaned these toilets. So I had put up the stuff and to clean the bathrooms, and we went over to where the 2 engines in the ladder, the guys were beginning to pull the stuff and equipment off the truck to do lifts and lowers with Stokes basket. So I pumped up then. That's what I'm there for. And shortly after that, the loudspeaker blasted out, and it was the fire chief who never got on the PA system, and it said, Captain Carter and Firefighter Cash, please come to my office. He looked at me and said, what have you done? I said, I don't know what I've done. He said, let's go. So we went to his office. And we both sat down across from his desk that looked the size of a football field, and had his legs propped up on the desk. And he said, "Captain Carter, who was assigned bathroom detail this morning on your shift?" And my captain throwed me under the bus immediately. And he said, it was Firefighter Cash, sir. And he said, "You're excused." And he looked over his shoulder as he left at me, and he knew I was in big trouble. So the chief said, "Firefighter Cash, did you clean those bathrooms?" I said, "Yes, sir, I did." He put his head down on his desk for several seconds, lifted back up and said, "Come with me, Firefighter Cash." So we go back to the logistics room, pick up the equipment, and head to the bathrooms. Well, there's a Coca-Cola crate sitting in the corner. So he moved that Coca-Cola crate over there and said, "Sit right there." And for those of you who don't know, Coca-Colas used to come in glass bottles, and they had a wooden 24-hole box you keep them in. And nobody to this day knows why that Coca-Cola crate was in that bathroom. But I sat there for the next hour and 20 minutes as he cleaned those bathrooms. He scrubbed them, he shined them, he polished them. He done everything to make them look awesome, presentable. You could lick the floors. They were that clean. So he took me back downstairs, and we put up the stuff. He said, "Let's wash up." And I said, "Are we finished, Chief?" He said, "No, I want you back in my office when you wash up." So I go back to his office, and now he's turned the chairs almost facing each other. And he had been calling me firefighter. And one time when we were cleaning, or he was cleaning and I was watching him, he called me boy and everything else, pretty degrading. But he taught me valuable lessons. So while I was in his office, he slid around there and he says, "Son, I see a lot of potential in you. I see you as being a fire chief someday." Pretty ironic. He was dead on the mark. But he said, "You got to learn to take care of the small things," because he said in the real world, if you take care of the small things, the big things will come a lot easier. And he said that's from the checking the air packs to the fuel tank to the water level, everything that you may think that's a small part of the operation, it's actually the first step. So when he told me that I was excused, I stuck out my hand to shake his hand and thank him for the lessons he taught me. And the other lesson was that he got in there and did the work. And sometimes you have to do the work yourself to set the example as a leader. And he didn't shake my hand. He put a big old bear hug on me and said, "You're going to be great." I said, "Thank you, Chief." And I appreciated those lessons. They're still with me today. We're going to talk now a little bit about ethics. A question for you: how critical are ethics? And I also call it reputation management. Can you ever get your reputation back once you lose your reputation? I'll allow you to ponder that for a second. Think about that. If you lose your reputation, can you get it back? How hard is it to get it back? I'm going to tell you about an ethical dilemma that I went through. And it was pretty harrowing. The four basic principles of ethics, before we actually get into my example, is respect for person. That's a no-brainer. We need to respect each other. Today, we live in a world where politics, to everything from church to anything you're involved in, there's not a lot of respect there anymore. Even at the firehouse, I've seen it. So we've got to respect people. And people are people, and they're God's people, so we should respect them. Benevolence, doing good. Justice, and truth telling. Truth telling is so important. And I've told guys that I've caught in non-truths that when you tell a false situation, you end up having to tell 3 more untruths to get it right. So it's best to tell the truth. And I got Kevin Harvick's picture up there because he's retiring this year from NASCAR. And him and his wife, Delina, they have a foundation, and they do all kind of good by giving underprivileged folks money and special projects money. And I know some of us don't have that type of money, but benevolence and doing good, doing the right thing is what we need to be doing. Again, justice and truth telling. Here's my dilemma. I haven't shared with you, but on 3 different occasions of my 44-year career, 40 of them at Cherville, I was pulled uptown to be interim city manager for various reasons. And this particular day, I'm sitting at my desk at the fire station, and the phone rings, and it's the mayor. Not unusual, because he called on me frequently to do projects for him. He was a retired company executive of one of the largest companies in our town and one of the largest trucking companies in the United States. And he said, come to City Hall. I said, what do I need, Mayor? Because I usually did projects for him. And he said, you don't need nothing. Just come up here. Well, I drive up to City Hall, 2 miles, and I noticed a lot of cars are missing, even though the lunch hour has passed, which is very unusual. I go into the back of City Hall, which is the administrative suite, and I can see that things are not normal. Doors are shut, doors are locked. So I go into the administrative suite that holds the administrative assistant, the city manager, and the mayor. And there's a conference room off that office. I go in, and first thing he says, he jumps up and says, shut the door. He comes and shuts the door and locks the door. I said, oh no, I'm in some kind of deep trouble. I said, Mayor, what's up? What can I do for you? He said, here's what you're going to do. He said, you're going to be our interim city manager for the next 3 or 4 weeks till I can find somebody to take this over and handle this situation. I said, Mayor, I'm not a city manager. I can fill in, but as long as you promise me that it'll only be 3 to 4 weeks. He said, I promise. So I wore my uniform every day to remind the mayor and the other elected officials that I was going back to the fire station. So here was what I ended up having to manage. By the way, I ended up staying almost 6 months in the manager's office due to this problem. We found out we had some embezzlements at City Hall from the finance folks, and we had a dirty, corrupt police department. Not all of our policemen, but some of them. So the FBI had been conducting an investigation. About 2 weeks after I'd taken the job at City Hall, my phone rang, my cell phone, and it was an FBI agent. He said, is this Chief Cash? I said, yes, sir, it is. He told me his name, and he said, I need you to meet me in Lincolnton, North Carolina, a town next door, at the Fats restaurant at 8:30 in the morning. And he introduced himself to who he was. So how do you tell the FBI no? I said, I'll be there. And I worry all night what's going on. And I go over there, and the first individual was a State Bureau of Investigation from our state office, and then the FBI agent. And they both got in my fire chief's vehicle. Pardon me, I had to have a sip of water. And they begin to tell me everything about my life. Everywhere I've been, everything I've done, what they were doing, they were vetting me as well. And the FBI agent was in the back, and he opened his portfolio on my radio desk there between me and the passenger seat. And it was pretty intimidating. As a matter of fact, before I got out of the vehicle, I had done confessed to the Hoffa killings and several kidnappings across the United States. And I was responsible for Amelia Earhart's death. And I set a field on fire when I was 5 years old or 6. And I said, no, I was accessory. My cousin set it on fire. So you could tell how intimidating it was. But we got down to business, and they shared with me what was going to happen in a few months. And lo and behold, you wouldn't believe what happened. They said they would call me early of a morning to come to the police department. And what I didn't know till later, they'd done a sting operation and got some of the police officers in Charlotte where they had set them up handling a stolen merchandise situation. So they tell me what's going to happen, and I go home. I can't tell my wife. I can't tell anybody. The mayor prods me all the time about telling him what's going on, and I couldn't. I was about to burst because I had to keep it, close to chest. And one morning, very early in September, October of that year, FBI said, be in a coat and tie, be at the police department, and we'll have somebody with you to help you talk to the media. So I get dressed. As soon as I pull out of my driveway, which is only 4 or 5 blocks from the PD, I could see helicopters, 3 different news helicopters. And as I got close to the PD, there were news trucks lined up and down Church Street. So I knew something was going on. So I pull in, and the FBI agents direct me to the back. And there is some of our police officers, our police chief, detectives, and others. And the FBI is pretty much running the show. And they tell me as I walk up, you need to fire this one, and this one. And I said, yes, sir, because the FBI was in charge. So I walk up, and what were friends and neighbors, I fired immediately on the spot, 3 of them. And some of these folks served time in prison. Some got probation. And then at the same time, there was an embezzlement at City Hall, and they arrested those individuals, and some of them did prison time and some probation. So it was a real mess for my little community, and we're only about 6,500. And boy, was our reputation damaged. It was only about 10% of the people involved, but the citizens assumed it was everybody. I would have sanitation guys get verbally abused and cussed, and a lot of citizens would give my employees the high sign, if you know what the high sign is. And we had people to spit on the police officers in their cars, and it was just unreal. That's why I alluded to, when you lose your reputation, how hard is it to get it back? But that was a day that will live in for infamy for us, and how important ethics are, and that you teach ethics to your people. I have learned that some of the younger folks coming in don't really have a good grasp of ethics. So it's important that you put ethics as a part of your training program early into their career, and then frequently, at least once a year, once every 2 years. So ethics is so critical. And there's kind of our story. And you say, what's happened today? We have pretty much all new police officers, new people uptown. We've put in systems that can't be manipulated again, and we're in very good shape. To the point that when I took over, we were so low on cash that I thought I was going to have to ask certain department heads to let me withhold their salary for a couple of weeks so I could pay the rest of the employees. That's how bad it got. But we got some relief from the state, and through some sale of some property, and we was able to pull out of it. And after 8 months, I got to go back to the fire station finally. But in this lower right-hand picture, I'm at the station, but the media's got me, and they follow me around all the time. The FBI called me all the time. I had to go to different places, the court, testify. It was just crazy. It was a crazy time. And the point of this whole little lecture and story is to make sure everything you and your organization does is ethical, is moral. Taking care of you. This is very important. And I became a victim of it. We need to eat right, live right, get plenty of sleep, avoid drugs and alcohol, exercise on a regular basis, and all of it's critical. Manage stress. What do you do as an outlet for stress? You need to have multiple outlets for stress and get regular medical checkups, whether that's your annual department physical or going to your own personal physician. I have 2 a year, one from the department and one from my physician. And I look forward to getting those done every year to make sure my numbers are good. Practice good hygiene, see friends, build a sense of belonging. And about the medical checkups, I actually slipped over it. Don't forget about having those cancer screenings. We have such a problem in the fire service now with the various type of cancers that have been proven that firefighters are more subject to than the general population. So adding those cancer screenings are so critical as well. The VCOS and the NVFC did a paper, a booklet, if you will, and we called it the Lavender Report. Please get a copy of that. You can see it online. It tells you all the facts. It gives you a hygiene type operations and decontamination operations, everything from washing your clothes to washing yourself. And be sure and check that out on the web. Enjoy it. Try to find something that you enjoy doing every day, that you have something to look forward to, even if it's a bowl of Breyer's chocolate ice cream. Find ways to relax, have those multiple ways. You need to stay current. You need to attend your national level meetings, your regional meetings, your state meeting, your county meetings. You need to read the periodicals that's pushed out. There's just great vision and education for you from those organizations and through the periodicals. And it's important that you stay up to date and in touch, and you're always looking down the road to the future. My example, back a couple years ago, did my physical at the fire station, and the doctor on duty called me over to his little private area and told me, he said, Chief, I got some bad news. I said, what is it, Doc? And he said, you have pre-diabetes, borderline, you're about to slip to be a diabetic. So how important that physical was for me, that they identified pre-diabetes and eventually diabetes, and I worked very hard to manage it. So keep that in mind. Very important to take care of you. When you take care of you, you're taking care of your family and your troops. I love this one. This is one I teach to our new people. It's customer servant and servanthood. We call it citizen service there in the second line. And you see the definition. But I want to give you an example. And I know you know of examples. This one actually comes out of the Bible. It's the servanthood example. Be willing to go the extra mile. Now, there was an Israelite who wanted to teach his young 13-year-old son how to do bartering in business at the local market, which was a few miles from their home. So the day comes and they decide to go to the market to have this educational session. Well, as soon as they stepped out onto the main road, there was a Roman soldier who was actually the police officers during those times. So there was a rule that an Israelite would have to carry that Roman soldier's equipment, accompaniment, for a mile. That was legal. If not, he could be subject to severe penalty and even death for disobeying a Roman soldier. So he picked up the accompaniment, which was about 70, 75 pounds, sounds a little bit like some of our equipment, and they began to walk. And him and his son was chatting. Of course, the Roman soldier didn't say much. And they got to the next mile marker, and the son and the Roman soldier knew that the Israelite dad was going to lay the equipment down. That was his only obligation, was to go a mile. But he kept going another mile. And the Roman soldier was blown away. So was his son. And then once they got to the second mile, he kept going again, even though he was not obligated to do that. Let's say it wasn't in his job description. You've heard that one. But always be willing to go the extra mile. He changed the Roman soldier's attitude. He definitely trained and changed his son's attitude and whoever else was watching. So when you're out with your troops, riding the apparatus or doing it, or doing training, anything that has to deal with the troops or new students as rookies, always have a class on customer service. And sometimes it ain't in your job description, but in the fire service, we always have to be willing to go the extra mile. Attitude. This is one of probably the most important attributes that you need to have. You can see the definition there. And there's one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite actors, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Johnny Depp, Captain Jack. He had this quote, and I want you to listen to it. And I'm going to pull it a little closer because I can see it because it's small. It's not the problem that's the problem. Your attitude about the problem is the problem. Savvy. And think about that. That's what usually causes our conflicts, our communication issues, is attitude. As a fire chief and a former training officer, I'd rather have somebody with a great attitude versus a toolbox full of skills and education, because we can teach that and we can get the education, but you cannot teach attitude. You can only model it and be an example of a positive attitude. And a positive attitude is contagious. I've got a company that is positive attitude and they just exude it. And then there's a truck that does not have so much positive attitude, and it affects that whole shift as well. So it's important, and it's important to teach folks what it looks like to have a great attitude. And old Johnny Depp has the great attitude. Check out this ad. I don't know where it came from, but attitude, not aptitude, determines your altitude. Think about that a minute. Attitude, not aptitude, determines your altitude. Teamwork. And I'm kind of wrapping up here now. And I'm going to ask you, how important is teamwork? That is the Hawaiian team who recently won the World Series, and they were awesome. And then down the bottom is Austin Dillon's Chevrolet, and you see 5 crewmen to service that car. Now they can do it in 10 or 11 seconds. It's amazing. But for us at the fire station, everything has to be teamwork. Even at home, have to have teamwork. For an example, who on that baseball team is the most important individual? I get a lot of people say the pitcher. I say it's the second baseman because that's where I played and my boys played. But the actual best person on the team, most important person on the team, is the team. And then down there at the bottom, if one of those pit crew members fall, stumble, then Austin's lost multiple places on the track, and he has to come back. And once you get in bad air, it's not good. So that pit stop is critical. And I equate that to what we do as well, as how teamwork's critical as well, even with your spouse and your family, significant other. Here's one that's important. Never give up. We live in this world now that where when I was coming up through the fire service and Chief John was coming up through the fire service, it was kind of not cool to talk about calls and when people were killed, people were injured, babies got burned. It was not cool. You were not cool. You had to suck it up as a firefighter. That has drastically changed over the past 20 years. Now you need to talk to somebody. You need to never give up. Always keep pushing forward. There's days you'll feel like that frog and you'll want to strangle your captain, your battalion chief, or even your city manager, maybe even your mayor. But there's things and outlets you can do. Have that hobby, talk to a friend, talk to your family, talk to your fire department chaplain. There is your employee assistance program in most locations. And there are phone numbers you can use among the national organizations to call about mental health. 988 is one of those numbers that can get you directed to talk to a professional in mental health. So it's no longer a taboo. You're encouraged, your leadership, your council, your board, your citizens urge you to talk to somebody. It's no shame. It is what you need to get better so the fire department can get back to business. Never give up. Congratulations. You have whipped this little lecture. Always have your teammates back. Be thankful for the brotherhood and sisterhood. I consult with multi-million-dollar corporations in my area, and they would pay multi-millions of dollars to have the camaraderie and brother sisterhood that we have in the fire service. Be proud of it and promote it. Remember where you came from. That's always important. I started as a volunteer. I'm back as a volunteer. So remember where you came from. Stay healthy. That's your job. Stay safe, and God bless. That picture is of our high school. Well, actually, most of them are our high schoolers. It's the Cherville Post 100 baseball team. My son is the second one on the right side of the picture. He played second base, and they won the right to play in the Legion World Series in Las Vegas. And they finished runner-up in the nation, but they had a great trip, and teamwork was what it was all about. So they were a great team, and we need to be a great team. Thank you. There's a checkered flagman because the race is over, and I'm going to turn it back over to John.
Jeff, thank you very much. What an interesting presentation. And you made a statement about not in your job description. I actually have a presentation about that specific topic. And that's many of the things you talked about today are not in a job description, but they are what makes you an effective leader. I love the story about the FBI. I had the second time the Secret Service came to my district because a former president was coming and the vice president was coming. I said, oh my God, I have a file. These guys knew everything about me and about my fire department. And they pulled out the file and they're reading it. Back in that day, it was paper. And so I related that story as well. So, but great presentation. Okay, so now's the time for questions. We'll be monitoring that. But, one of the statements you made on one of your slides is how do you get or about common goals and objectives? How as a leader, how do you what's the process of trying to get all these diverse people to come to common goals and objectives for your department? Any ideas, Jeff?
Well, I did it in the group fashion. I pulled some of my key officers, key drivers, key firefighters in, and we had a brainstorming session and had a little help from outside. A librarian in our community had expertise in developing missions and goals and objectives and statements for the department to operate by. So she helped us, walked us along, and about 10 years ago, we produced our first mission statement and strategic plan. And they modify it every year now, keep it going, and it's a document that we operate off. It's like the playbook.
Great. So group process, get everybody involved, invite all the players to the table. If you want to start trying to get everybody on the same page, in the same playbook, Jeff's advice is to get everybody involved, invite everybody to the table. So when you look at, you talked about troublemaker, and I've talked about troublemakers as well. And I say troublemakers are like cancer. So how much do you put up with? How much, when a troublemaker is creating a problem, how long do you put up with that kind of stuff? Jeff?
I utilize the example of my uncle's tomatoes all the time. If that person or that individual continues to cause problems, once you've retrained and you give everybody the benefit of the doubt and you've coached and you've put mentors with him or her and they still continue to cause problems in the organization, you got at that point, you've sent them through the grading house, you're going to throw that tomato out, or that tomato will ruin the entire box and you'll lose the account at the grocery store.
Great. Yep. Great. All right. The final question I got, and we may have a couple more I'm watching, but you talked about how you helped your chief officers get experience by sending them to Charlotte to ride along with a battalion chief. How do you get an experience today? We have a lot of, we don't have fires like you and I had back in our younger days. And so it's like, how do you learn? How does that new officer, captain who just got promoted, how do they get some experience on how to fight fires and how to make decisions? Any ideas or support there, Jeff?
Yeah, we start with a succession plan, even at the lower levels. That driver engineer who's going to be promoted soon, his or her captain, should have been doing a great job of mentoring them. But we can do all the classwork. We can simulate all we want to, but it's nothing like seeing the fire and watching the operation, listen to the radio traffic. So being close friends with the former chief at Charlotte, Luther Fincher, a past president of the IFC, a good friend of mine, and he allowed me to have some of my folks ride with their bat chiefs because Charlotte has a lot of fires, and we may have 25 fires a year where they have 25 maybe a day or two. So I utilize that from my larger metro department about 36, 37 miles away, and it has really helped.
All right, great. I would suggest that for those that the younger officers, chiefs on here that want to help our younger officers get some experience is go to the Firefighter Safety and Research Institute at UL and read up on the fire dynamics. There is so much research, not John and Jeff going in the garage writing a book about fire dynamics. It's so much research that's being done out there today that can help you understand what's going to happen with the fire, how it's going to grow, how it's going to get smaller, and what you can do to make it get bigger or get smaller. So I encourage you to do that. So my final comment, and I don't see any other questions from the group. Jeff, you talked about the small things. And of course, there's a book out there called something like Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. And I believe what you said. You're right. Everything is small stuff, and it relates to your reputation management. So I want you to give you a chance to go back to that, because I was told this one time several years ago. Don't ever let your guard down to protect your reputation. Anything else to add to that, Jeff?
Yes, John, I consulted with another state, a fire department, who some of their juniors left high school to go to a car accident, and it was one of their classmates who was killed and injured. So, and they had on their fire department t-shirts. So they started sending out pictures and notifying classmates and other parents. The parents of this young lady who was killed in the car wreck, her parents found out on Facebook. So that community that I helped, they wanted to close the fire department, have every firefighter drawn and quartered. They was ready to get them out of there. So we went in and started some training, did some community meetings, and they're starting to get their reputation back. Of course, they had to get rid of the bad apples, the bad tomatoes, and have rules about where you wear that T-shirt and what juniors can do and what they can't do. And SOPs and SOGs need to be before the incident happens. But that's an example where reputation management, once you lose it, it's very hard to get it back.
Yep. Well, Jeff, again, thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you for your leadership over the years, your support of the volunteer fire service. And we need more people like you that come forward to support the volunteer fire service. I don't believe the volunteer fire service is dying, although we see that a lot. It's changing, and we have to accept that change. So again, Jeff, thank you very much for your time today. For all those, the attendees, those that registered, I think we had about 30 people, 31 people on here, Jeff, at one time. You'll get a link to today's recorded session. All those that registered as well will get that, so you can share this. We want you to share it on social media, share it with your other officers. Hopefully you found some value in it, and it will be something that you would like to share as well. So thank you all for attending, and thank Jeff for coming on and doing this presentation with us. With that, we'll say have a great afternoon. Be safe out there, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Take care. Thank you.